Watching Global Business Report with me, Michael Wilson. Now, onto a growing sector which many of you may not be totally familiar with, potash. It's a basic fertiliser used by many farmers across the world. Potash industry has grown rapidly over the past few years, and we've seen a number of billion-dollar takeover deals take place as companies scramble to enter the sector. In the UK, there are currently only 2 publicly traded potash companies, and I'm now joined by the chairman of one of them, Chris Cleverly of African Potash. Difficult, I would imagine, to underestimate the importance of potash in Africa's agricultural future, in particularly as all those economies now which are feeling the bite of the oil press are now wishing they'd diversified a bit more.
Well, I think you've got it in one there, actually, Michael. I think when you look at a continent where you've got something like 70% of the world's uncultivated arable land, and you've got 70% of the population actually involved in agriculture, and you've got statistics such as the amount of fertiliser put in the ground in the Congo. They put about 1 kilo of fertiliser per hectare, but they put something like 175 kilos per hectare in India and 250 kilos in England, and then you wonder why there isn't enough food to eat. So as we're going into an age of great urbanisation in Africa, huge population growth in Africa, the agriculture sector becomes much, much more important.
And interestingly, your company, I mean, you became chairman earlier this year, Marchish, and you almost want to become an African development body, don't you, in lots of ways? So it's not just a miner.
Yes.
But it's a sort of vertically integrated company, because you have your own control over supply and all the rest of it. How close to you are you to achieving that? Because you are an AIM-listed company with a relatively small amount of capitalisation.
So I think what we have here is an understanding of how African business really works. The way the AIM market works is it sectorises things. So you've got miners, you've got real estate companies, you've got financial services companies. But in Africa, you see that companies conglomerate in some way or the other.
Yeah, it's like a Dangote.
Exactly, and they try and control a whole supply chain, so they can move in and out of the different cycles of business. So right now, resources is in a rut. You can't raise money for resource companies. People aren't that interested in resource companies, and yet the African story keeps on going forward. The agriculture story keeps on going forward, and so by combining our mineral, which is potash, which is the main constituent of fertiliser, with the whole of the vertical chain, and then using our minerals, which are found in Africa, for African farmers' benefit.
Okay.
We've actually managed to join the story together.
You're going to say to me that this COMESA group of, I think it's 22 African countries, isn't it?
Yeah,
which is 20, okay, an informal grouping of them. You've got memoranda perhaps of understanding with a lot of those countries to supply. These aren't contracts, though, are they?
So what we've done is we've have an agreement with COMESA, which is actually a formal organisation.
Oh, is it? Okay. Right.
It's like the EEC here, and many people sort of look at our relationship with it as perhaps, if we can imagine a small Welsh coal miner suddenly providing all the coal for the EEC. So it's a huge growth position for us, but it's one that we're willing to accept, one which we've taken on board because no one else could work out the financing for it.
But what you're trying to do with that, and I guess you're not quite achieving it yet, but you may well do. The key to you is revenue, isn't it? That's what you've got to do.
So, exactly. So look, the process works like this. First of all, you get the financing in place. We have a unique financing structure, because what we're financing here is the African farmer. We're not financing you, it's not financing me, I'm not financing a house out here in London, I'm financing the African farmer. So what that means I've got to do is I've got to bring together the financing that goes from the supplier to the port, from the port to the collateral manager, from the collateral manager out through the distributor to the farmer. We've put together a very unique structure which we've announced. We've now have that in place. We will be providing finance which will give credit terms for the first time. And what people don't really get is this, and this is really important, Michael, is that the average farmer in Uganda pays 4 times as much for his fertiliser as the average farmer in Ukraine. And that's wrong. And the quality that the product that he has is much less, and that's wrong. So to put together a structure which we have in the last 4 months is pretty unique. And in terms of, just finishing the question, in terms of the MOUs that we've got in place, those are with the people that COMESA has put us together with. COMESA is the union of 20 countries in Africa whose members are the presidents of those countries. So it's a very formal organisation. Okay. It's a very formal
and briefly and finally, you're a penny stock at the moment, and it's quite volatile and so on. Yeah. To achieve what you want to do, you've got to get off AIM and go somewhere, haven't you? How far away is that?
No, we don't have to come off AIM. What we've got to do is we've got to do our plan. And I think we've given great benefit to our shareholders. When I came on the company has had a value of about 2.5 billion. We now have a valuation of about 15, 16, 17 million. We'll do a next lot of announcements. We'll see where it goes. I'm pretty sure it'll go very, very well. We're very excited about what the future brings. We have an incredible board that we've put in place now of very, very senior individuals who can talk government to government level. Okay. Because it's important to understand fertiliser in the African context, and sometimes we miss it, is that in Africa, fertiliser is life. If you want to speak to a president of a country and you're selling fertiliser, you can do that. In England, you can even speak to an agriculture minister because it's not very important.
Chris Lovely, thanks
very much.